Born in the 1950s, Gray Fox, also known as Frank Yeager, was a mercenary and former agent of the United States Special Forces Unit Foxhound. Originally as a child soldier who fought in Mozambique, Frank Yeager spent his early years fighting as a child soldier for guerrilla fighters in the Mozambican War of Independence. Known for his cruelty and war tactics, he would trick enemies into letting their guard down by acting with the franklessness of a young boy before killing them with the ruthlessness of a hunter. In 1966, newly promoted Big Boss would become acquainted with Yeager in Mozambique after stopping him in battle and placing the young boy in a rehabilitation facility, believing that he would be safe. While at the rehab center, Yeager was taken by the CIA and was used as a test subject in the Perfect Soldier project. The project would turn the boy into a much more efficient killer, capable of taking out any targets without remorse. In 1970, Frank Yeager was given the name the Perfect Soldier, and during the events of the Sierra takeover, was pitted against Big Boss but was unable to defeat him. During this fight against Big Boss, Frank Yeager was haunted by memories of his past, and after losing his fight against Big Boss, was offered to be helped by recovering his broken mind and was sent to a hospital alongside Big Boss's new ally Roy Campbell to see if he could be treated for his physical and mental damages. After recovering from the events of the Sierra takeover, Frank Yeager would return to the battlefield in 1979, and during the Rhodesian Civil War was responsible for killing the parents of a young girl, but filled with guilt chose to adopt the young girl and care for her as his younger sister. This little girl would grow up to become Dr. Naomi Hunter. During the 1990s, Frank Yeager was trained alongside a fellow agent going by the name David. Both would become members of the Special Unit Foxhound, but Frank Yeager will receive the title Fox, while his friend and fellow agent David will receive the code name Solid Snake. In 1995, Frank Yeager, now going by the code name Gray Fox, was assigned to Operation Intrude N312 to recover information on a newly developed weapon. However, his mission was a complete failure, and he was later captured only to be rescued by Solid Snake, and the two would then discover that the secret weapon was a newly designed model of Metal Gear. After learning that the commander of the Foxhound unit, Big Boss, was responsible for these events, Gray Fox left Foxhound and sided himself with Big Boss to seek out a new goal alongside his commander and longtime friend. 4 years later, during the Zanzibarland riots, Gray Fox would now be forced to face his former ally Solid Snake in battle and would be defeated alongside his commander Big Boss, who was at the time presumed dead. After the fall of Big Boss, Gray Fox, now badly injured, would be recovered by the Patriots and through cybernetic surgery would become a guinea pig for Foxhound's chief medical agent Dr. Clark and her gene therapy experiments. However, Gray Fox's adopted sister Naomi Hunter would go undercover and join the Foxhound unit to help rescue him. Naomi would be successful in rescuing Gray Fox, and now recovered would go on to kill Dr. Clark, who was at the time known to be one of the founding members of the Patriots. His mind, now badly damaged, left only one single desire, and that was to fight Solid Snake once again. In 2005, during the Shadow Moses incident, with the help of Naomi Hunter, Gray Fox was able to track down Solid Snake once again and face him in battle. However, later on during this same mission, Gray Fox would then join forces with Solid Snake and help him battle the newly designed Metal Gear Rex, which was now being piloted by Solid Snake's twin genetic brother Liquid Snake. During the battle, however, Gray Fox's arm was cut off and he was crushed under the foot of Metal Gear Rex. His last words to Snake would be the driving motivation for Solid Snake's long-term life goal to destroy all Metal Gear weapons.
Slade Joseph Wilson was born in America sometime in the 1930s and at the age of 16 would illegally join the military, and after serving in Korea would be transferred to Camp Washington, where he would eventually be promoted to the rank of major. In the early 1960s, he met Captain Adeline Kane, who would be impressed by his skill and would immediately fall in love with him. Under her training, Slade would master several martial arts as well as achieve the rank of lieutenant colonel. Adeline and Slade would be married, and during the Vietnam War, Slade would be deployed and Adeline would give birth to their first son, Grant. Slade would then volunteer for an experimental serum meant to help soldiers resist true serum. However, the serum wouldn't have the desired effect, and Slade would fall into a coma before awakening, and would realize he now had superhuman abilities. He would apply to join the army once more, but would be rejected. It was around this time that his second son, Joe, would be born, and Slade would secretly become a mercenary, known as Deathstroke, telling his family that he was a safari hunter. A few years later, while Joe was still a child, he would be kidnapped by a group of terrorists who wanted information on one of Slade's clients. But Slade would refuse to give up what he knew, and one of the men would slit Joe's throat, rendering him mute. Enraged, Adeline would shoot Slade in the head, destroying his right eye. After this, Slade would dedicate himself fully to his mercenary persona, becoming known across the world as the infamous mercenary Deathstroke the Terminator. Years later, Grant, not knowing Slade and Deathstroke were one and the same, would grow to idolize the mercenary, taking up his own title of the Ravager, and would eventually take a job to assassinate the Teen Titans, allowing an organization known as Hive to enhance him physically. But these enhancements would eat away at him. Slade would be informed of this by his friend William Wintergreen and would work with Grant to take out the Titans. However, Grant would succumb to his enhancements and would die in Slade's arms, having believed that he had killed the Titans and had impressed his idol. Slade would then swear revenge on the team and would agree to complete the contract in Grant's place. Slade would then have an associate of his, Tara Markov, infiltrate the Titans, and she would eventually gain their trust, and working together the two would capture the Titans before Joseph, who now went by the title Jericho, and Adeline would track down the former Robin, Dick Grayson, who would agree to work with Joe to free his friends. However, the two would be captured. Upon realizing Joe had joined the Titans, Slade would bargain for his son's life, giving Joe enough time to take control of Slade and using his father's body to free the other Titans, causing Tara to go mad and tear down the facility, killing herself in the process. Now that his son was a member of the Teen Titans, Slade would be less hostile to the team and would occasionally aid them. However, after years of working with the team, Jericho would be possessed by the demons of Azarath, and after learning of this, Slade would team up with the Titans to rescue his son. However, after fighting Joe, he temporarily regained control and would beg his father to kill him as he could not be saved. And so, in order to spare his son any further suffering, Slade stabbed Joseph in the heart, killing him. This event would haunt Slade for the rest of his life. Slade would then continue to work as a mercenary as well as play the occasional hero role, and would even work with the Teen Titans on multiple occasions in memory of his son.
What's up again there, guys? This is Brian, the Three Topics Gamer, here to present not only my 50th Versus Series matchup, but my final Versus Series matchup that I will be doing for my channel. To make it extra special, I will be having my very first and last collaboration matchup with my guest here, Rain932, who was more than helpful for not only providing the matchup idea, but bringing his own unique analytical style to go head-to-head with my own, as Gray Fox, the Cyborg Ninja, represented by me, will go head-to-head with Deathstroke to see which combatant would walk away the winner if these two were to ever meet. For this particular matchup, I will be going back to my classic traditional analytical style, and if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up and be sure to press the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And even though the Versus series may be ending, I can guarantee you that more awesome content will be coming in the future. Also, be sure to press the link in the description to go to Rain932's channel, as he has his own Versus series that I promise is really awesome and well worth your time and effort. So, with that out of the way, let's begin by going out with the series with a bang, and we'll be starting by breaking these two down with their physical capabilities. Due to the amount of complete damage Gray Fox took as a result of his defeat by Solid Snake during the events of the Zanzibar land riots, along with having his body blown apart due to a landmine, Gray Fox's body had to be rebuilt through cybernetic surgery, which included a prosthetic right hand. A powered exoskeleton was also grafted directly onto his body by inserting a cybernetic module at the skeletal level, granting Fox enhanced strength and agility. When it comes to his enhanced strength, it could be really hard to determine exactly what his limits are. His two primary examples that we have been able to see from him is that he is able to cut through solid concrete, but his most impressive example of strength was shown when he was able to hold up the foot of Metal Gear Rex when it was coming down to crush Solid Snake with extra force. Though the official weight of Metal Gear Rex places it well over 550 tons, I can't help but question this, but I do agree that Gray Fox certainly can handle a few hundred tons of weight if placed in the right position. When it comes to his reflex speed, when using his sword, he has consistently shown that he can deflect gunfire fired from just about any range, and he has been shown to actually be able to do this when he was much younger, when he was known as the Perfect Soldier. But as a combatant, there is no question that he is well past his physical prime, being well into his mid or even early 50s by the time of the Shadow Moses incident. Gray Fox's exoskeleton enabled him to jump great heights and move his body in ways that his original body could not. When it comes to Gray Fox's full body's movement speed, he is fast enough to dodge bullets that were fired at him from Metal Gear Rex's machine gun, though to be clear, when he was getting hit, he was obviously not trying to dodge the rounds but simply wanted to position himself for a frontal assault. Though the material of the exoskeleton itself is rather tough, it does seem to not be able to completely protect Gray Fox's organic body from harm, as Solid Snake was able to cause enough physical damage to Gray Fox to force him into retreat, despite the fact that they were simply fist-fighting during their second fight at Shadow Moses. Along with having his entire left arm completely cut off due to Metal Gear Rex's laser beam, and being pinned to the wall by Metal Gear Rex's cockpit hub to the point where Gray Fox was unable to move, only to be completely flattened by the force of weight of Gray Fox's foot, it is my theory that Gray Fox's exoskeleton had a similar function to old Snake's muscle suit, and the fact that it enabled a badly broken body to function at a normal rate, or, in Gray Fox's case, a superhuman rate.
Before the DC relaunch in 2011, Slade was a metahuman, somewhere in his late 60s to early 70s, at 6 feet 4 inches, and weighing 225 pounds. Even before being enhanced with the experimental serum, as a soldier in the US military, Slade was in excellent physical condition, possibly even being in peak condition. After being injected with the serum, he easily surpassed the physical limitations of a normal human being. Slade is strong enough to send people flying with a single punch, dent metal by slamming other people into it, break metal chains while injured, and once while enraged had to be restrained by 7 different Justice League members, including Hawkman. Speed-wise, Slade is capable of deflecting gunfire with a sword, can throw his swords faster than the human eye can see, can effortlessly evade bullets fired at close range, and on multiple occasions has been able to tag speedsters. And though these hits were more attributable to aim, they are impressive regardless. When it comes to stamina, Deathstroke has shown enhanced levels, being capable of fighting non-stop for prolonged periods of time, constantly implementing acrobatics in combat, battling entire teams of superheroes by himself, and all of this while at the tail end of his physical prime. Deathstroke's body, despite being enhanced in other areas, has shown no change when it comes to the breaking of the skin, as when outside of his armor, he will take damage just like anyone else. However, Slade heals at an accelerated rate, and as a side effect of this, it has decelerated his aging, making him physically closer to his early 50s than his actual age, and in his own words, is capable of healing a bullet wound within a day. However, fatal damage such as damage to the brain or heart will still incapacitate him for at least a few hours. But due to this not being true regeneration, he hasn't been shown to be able to replace or reattach destroyed or severed body parts like his eye, for example, meaning it's likely decapitation will put him down for good.
When it comes to comparing these two very unique combatants against each other in the physical sense, it is clear to see that both combatants hold a significant advantage against each other. Gray Fox holds the speed and strength advantage, while Slade holds the stamina and durability advantage. So the question to be asked is which combatant's advantages allows them to better respond more effectively against their opponent, and in this contest, it is clear to see that Slade holds a sizable advantage. It may be true that Gray Fox is certainly faster and perhaps even stronger than Slade, but Slade has engaged multiple opponents that are both stronger and faster than himself, and he has still been shown to be able to properly respond and even defeat them. Gray Fox's physical build means that he is not best when he is forced into a long-standing engagement, as his physical build is very much meant for him to deliver a quick, decisive attack and then fall back. And this entire combative history against opponents who do not go down immediately has shown that Gray Fox comes out defeated every single time. Slade is not the kind of opponent that is going to go down quickly, even against opponents who have been able to defeat him. He is the kind of opponent that you must wear down over time and beat him into submission. And as a physical combatant, that is precisely what Gray Fox's physical advantages over Slade do not allow him to do. And when given enough time, Slade's stamina and durability will give him the time he needs to last long enough to adapt. And when one adds Slade's own accelerated healing into effect, Anything less than an instant kill strike will allow Slade to recover and keep fighting, while Gray Fox can only stay in any given engagement for a limited amount of time, and Slade as a physical sense will not allow Gray Fox to play out this fight the way he needs it to play out, and it's because of these reasons that Slade gets the edge in physical capabilities. By the time of the Shadow Moses incident, Gray Fox's arsenal of weapons and battle tech was very limited, but in his hands was very effective. Gray Fox used a Chokuto sword model from the 8th century. The sword itself was measured at about 40 inches from the hilt to the tip of the blade. A distinctive feature of the Chokuto sword was the straight blade, similar to that of ancient swords that were found in the Third Kingdom period of China. With this weapon's design, it was clear that it was best used for slashing and thrusting attacks. Gray Fox also used an arm-mounted cannon capable of firing energy projectiles. From doing some research on the weapon itself, I was able to determine that this weapon could fire off about 20 shots before it ran out of ammunition. On the tech side of things, Gray Fox's exoskeleton came with a built-in stealth camouflage, allowing him to remain undetected even in the center of an enemy's compound. The exoskeleton was also demonstrated to emit electromagnetic waves that could cause radars to short out should the wearer be in close proximity. With one of Gray Fox's titles being the Cyborg Ninja, it is clear that his array of weapons and tech aided the notion of being quiet but deadly.
Slade's signature weapon is his collapsible energy staff, which measures at 4 feet in length. The staff also doubles as his main ranged weapon, functioning similarly to a semi-automatic rifle, with the power to blast through people, stone, and weaker metals with ease. However, this seems to be its upper limit, as even at full power it was unable to even dent the hull of a battleship. Deathstroke also carries a custom bastard sword measuring at around 3 feet long. This sword is sharp enough to cut through cars, other swords, and even cyborg cybernetic parts, which are made from the same metal alloy. Slade's custom armor makes him nearly impervious to bullets and protects him to the point where he can take a shotgun blast, and after getting up he was able to keep moving like nothing had happened. Strangely enough, however, his armor has frequently been shown to be pierced by bladed weapons, such as standard combat knives and even shards of glass, suggesting to me that this armor was specifically made to protect against bullets. His armor, staff, and sword are all made out of metal alloy known as volatile promethium, which gives his gear the ability to absorb and generate energy, and is likely how his staff gains the energy it fires. He also regularly carries a variety of grenades, ranging from explosive to concussion to smoke. Both Gray Fox and Deathstroke's arsenal are specifically tailored to their own respective combative approaches, with Gray Fox possessing the weapons of an assassin, and Deathstroke wielding the arsenal of a warrior. When comparing their primary melee weapons, Slade's collapsible staff seem to have every advantage over Gray Fox's Chokuto, being longer and easier to defend with, as well as having the ability to easily switch between standard strikes and energy blasts on the fly, making it an all-around more versatile weapon. Their swords are very impressive, with both being able to easily cut through objects other blades simply wouldn't be capable of, such as metal. Both weapons are roughly the same length and in combat would function identical to each other. When comparing their primary firearms, Slade's energy staff is once again the superior weapon, sporting more firepower as well as presumably having a higher ammo reserve due to not relying on physical ammo, though this is speculation on my part. Then there's the factor of volatile promethium, which would absorb the energy from Gray Fox's arm cannon, feeding Slade even more ammo to use against him. The issue when comparing Gray Fox's exosuit to Deathstroke's armor is that while Slade's armor is technically more durable, it has a specific weakness that Fox would be capable of exploiting even without trying, as for whatever reason Slade's armor doesn't defend nearly as well against bladed weapons, which would make it useless against Gray Fox's main weapon. Against Fox's arm-mounted cannon, however, it's the exact opposite scenario, as not only is his armor capable of taking the shots with no issue, but the volatile promethium will actually absorb the energy of Gray Fox's projectiles and power his own ranged weapon. And it is for these reasons that Deathstroke gets the edge in weapons and equipment.
Like all previous matchups that me and Ray have done involving sword uses for our matchups, we will both be using lightsaber fighting forms to help better illustrate and describe the martial, combative, and tactical approaches of both Gray Fox and Deathstroke in this contest. And with that statement out of the way, by the time of the Shadow Moses incident, Gray Fox had been through more than 40 years of combat. During his early life when he was known as the Perfect Soldier, Gray Fox's skills with bladed weapons began when he was simply a child, and from that time on he was mostly self-taught on the field of battle. His combat design was based off the notion that he would be a sword-wielding combatant operating in the modern times of warfare. Because of this, his tactical approach had to be capable of dealing with groups of opponents at once that would all be using firearms and using his highly enhanced speed and reflexes to easily catch his opponents off guard and overwhelm them. Due to this, Gray Fox's skill set would have made him a certainly focused, well-rounded user of Forms 1C Cho to deal with groups of enemies, and Form 4 Ataru for mobility and use jumps, flips to resemble a blur of offensive motion. I would also like to state that he would have had a very basic understanding of the defensive Form 3 Surisu to deal with projectile defense, but it is questionable if his defensive manners were built to contend with other opponents who were using bladed weapons. In combat, despite Gray Fox being a highly effective when going on the offense, his tactical approach was still bogged down with problems. For starters, despite Gray Fox's offensive application, it seems to not be nearly as effective against a single well-trained opponent, as shown in his engagements with Big Boss, Jean, and Solid Snake. And despite what some of you may think, I do not believe that Gray Fox spent a great deal of time improving his skills with the blade during his time with Foxhound, and only began reusing bladed weapons after his reconstruction as a result of him being crippled during the Zanzibarland riots. And because of his nature of being reconstructed, with this left Gray Fox completely incapable of taking part in long-term head-to-head engagements. Because of this, Gray Fox's standard approach was based on relying on fast encounters to quickly and decisively overwhelm his opponents, then immediately engage another. Gray Fox's secondary tactical weakness was that he was incapable of responding properly to maneuvers or techniques that he was not prepared for or was even expecting in the heat of battle, which did cause Gray Fox to get caught off guard very easily. Despite Gray Fox's weakness in a purely offensive manner, he did have a reliable fallback option tactically at his disposal. If he ever encountered an opponent that he could not simply overwhelm with his offensive barrage of attacks, Gray Fox could choose to put away his sword and attempt to engage with his highly advanced hand-to-hand combat skills. But though his training alongside Solid Snake was very advanced, it is clear that Solid Snake's skills in hand-to-hand combat were superior. Apart from that, thanks to his Foxhound training, he was very well skilled on relying on using stealth techniques and maneuvers, and during the Shadow Moses incident would take full advantage of using his stealth camouflage technology and attacking opponents when they least expected it. However, he could only rely on this approach for so long, and only if he was given no other choice.
Deathstroke has shown a mastery with both melee and ranged weapons, being skilled enough to defeat Batman during their first encounter and is just as skilled with firearms as Deadshot. Slade's main form is easily Form 4 Ataru, with nearly all of his combative showings involving either constant aggression or acrobatics. Ataru is best suited against a single opponent over a short encounter, as the form's physical application is taxing on the body. Another weakness of this form is that it's impractical in confined spaces for obvious reasons. He's also shown great skill in 4-5 Xian/Gem So, a form primarily used to deflect and counter incoming attacks and reflect them at the aggressor, as well as deliver devastating counterattacks. One form he would need to be at least proficient in due to his skill in taking out groups of enemies would be Form 1 Sho, which focuses on wide sweeping motions best used on groups. However, this form can easily be countered by a single well-trained opponent. Deathstroke is easily one of, if not the best tactician in the DC universe, and even once took on and nearly defeated 8 members of the Justice League at the same time, easily exploiting all of their weaknesses and disabling them. If I had to compare Slade to a duelist from another franchise, I would compare him to a mixture of Jedi Master Plo Koon and Darth Vader, regularly using powerful, highly acrobatic maneuvers mixed in with precise blade strikes meant to slip past an opponent's guard, as well as an amazing capability in deflecting attacks before delivering a devastating counter meant to beat down an opponent.
When comparing Gray Fox and Deathstroke as combatants, it is clear that both are highly effective against groups of opponents and are capable of delivering a high rate of offensive speed-based attacks to overwhelm their opponents. Where they differ is in their combative experiences and their combative fallback options, and in both regards, Gray Fox is at a critical disadvantage. Gray Fox's straightforward, speed-focused blade offense would not be very successful against Deathstroke, as not only can he apply a similar level of offensive output, but his experiences that he has gained over the years has placed him in situations against opponents who are as fast or even faster than Gray Fox can perform. So while Gray Fox is using this approach, Deathstroke would know how to respond. Once this failed, he might want to fall back on using his stealth camouflage and try an indirect approach to get the jump on Deathstroke. But once again, Deathstroke would respond by using the environment itself to place him in the location, for as even while cloaked, Gray Fox would not be able to get the jump on him. And if Deathstroke decided to center himself in a location, he would simply wait and anticipate the direction that Gray Fox was going to attack him. Failing at this, he would then attempt to overwhelm him with his mounted cannon, in which Deathstroke would once again respond. This would then force Fox to have to fall back on his final combative option, and that would be go head-to-head in hand-to-hand combat, and Fox would quickly realize that he is greatly outmatched. What Deathstroke has over Fox in a combative and tactical sense is an effective countering offense, whether while using his sword, his energy staff, or his fist. And with him adopting the countering qualities of a Form 5 offense, grants him greater flexibility to react and adapt, which is exactly what Gray Fox has proven to have difficulty when contending against a single well-trained opponent. On top of this, Fox's mental stability may be at risk in a situation like this. Now, some would say that Fox's mental breakdown during his fight against Solid Snake was caused by sudden flashes of memories that he had when he was fighting Solid Snake in the past, but one must remember that these moments of mental disruption have been a part of him since he was known as the Perfect Soldier as a much younger man, which required him to have daily resting sessions to return to his mental stability to keep it back to normal levels, meaning that the stress of not achieving immediate results may cause problems for Gray Fox mentally. It's not guaranteed that he will suffer one of these mental breakdowns, but it is highly possible. Deathstroke is not the kind of opponent that one can defeat quickly, even against opponents who have the skill set, knowledge, and experience to take him down. And those who can will not be able to do it quickly, as his core combative style is built for battles of attrition, and this is exactly the type of battle that Gray Fox as a combatant is not built for. And it is for these reasons that Deathstroke will get the edge in martial skills and as a battle tactician. I'm sure by now all of you can see that at the end of the day, this is simply the kind of fight that Gray Fox could have never have won at any point in his life. He is completely outmatched in just about every single department. Physically, his badly broken exoskeleton covered body does not grant him the durability he would need to go in a head-to-head engagement, and having the strength and speed advantage isn't that much of an advantage against Deathstroke, as he himself has contended with multiple opponents that were both stronger and faster than himself, and has been able to contend with all of them. When it comes to his equipment, Fox's most effective weapon is his sword, with his mounted arm cannon being the most unusual addition to his arsenal, as it was only ever meant to be used against Metal Gear Rex, so trying to use against Deathstroke might prove to be very pointless, while Deathstroke is not only bringing more weapons, but his arsenal grants him far more flexibility and options to respond, and as a combative and tactical combatant, Gray Fox's typical offensive approach was consistently shown over the course of his entire combative career to be less effective against opponents that did not go down immediately, or worse, against people who knew how to respond to his techniques. And not only is Deathstroke familiar with some of Gray Fox's techniques because he himself uses them, but he knows how to control the pace of the fight. Now, to go over how we believe this fight will play out, I'm going to pass it over to my friend Rain to give you the rundown.
Let's set up this fight. Let's say that it takes place during the Shadow Moses incident and that Deathstroke has been hired by a third party to obtain information on the Metal Gear Rex, and that the two meet as Fox is trying to interrogate Otacon. However, rather than Snake, Slade turns to the corner, getting his attention. At first, Deathstroke would attempt to simply persuade Fox to let him take Otacon without any bloodshed. However, Gray Fox would simply see Deathstroke as an obstacle and would take up an aggressive stance. Seeing that Fox has no intention of solving things peacefully, Slade draws his own blade and takes a similar stance. The two would lunge at each other, and all Otacon would be able to see was blurred movements along with the occasional spark from their blades clashing, before wisely deciding to hide in a locker. Both men are trying to take out the other quickly, but neither is successful, and they would disengage for a moment to size up their opponent. The two would then engage once more, but this time more to get a feel for the other's fighting style and discover any flaws in their style. And through this, Slade would realize that his blade skills were superior, but wouldn't play his hand right away, continuing to stalemate Gray Fox until he found an opportunity, either during a blade lock or when Fox would make a mistake. But either way, Slade would lash out, landing several solid hits. At first, Fox would view this as a simple fluke, but now Deathstroke is going all out and easily blocking Gray Fox's strikes and successfully countering. Each time, Gray Fox would be forced to disengage once again, and at this point would switch to his arm-mounted cannon and would open fire. Slade deflects several of the shots, but one hits him square in the chest. However, his Prometheum armor would absorb the energy from the shot and would easily withstand the bullet. He would then switch to his energy staff and return fire. A short firefight would ensue, with Gray Fox evading Slade and Deathstroke tanking most of the shots sent his way. Eventually, Deathstroke would land a solid hit, taking out the cannon and forcing Gray Fox to once again engage with Slade with his sword. But the same result as last time would occur, except now Deathstroke has even more avenues to attack from, and eventually Slade would land a solid hit, knocking off his helmet. Realizing he won't be able to beat Slade by way of the blade, Gray Fox jumps back and sheathes his weapon, before challenging Slade, saying that they should finish this battle like men. Amused, Deathstroke decides to play along and drops his staff, grenades, and even removes his mask, and the two once again square off. Due to his training and greater strength, Gray Fox is able to match Slade for a short time, until Slade realizes that his approach actually hasn't changed and would once again dominate Fox, who would very quickly realize that he simply can't stand up to Slade like this either. Gray Fox would then jump back and would fall back on stealth, activating his cloak. Deathstroke dives for his staff and looks around. Slade is able to get a vague idea of Gray Fox's location, but is unassured of his exact position. Unsure if he would be able to locate Gray Fox in time, Deathstroke decides to take the risk and pretends to be unaware of Gray Fox's general position and turns his back to him while listening for Fox's attack. In the instant Slade turns around, Gray Fox leaps into action, going in for a decapitation. But Deathstroke hears this and twists around and grabs Fox out of the air. Knowing that it's now or never, Gray Fox shoves his sword into Slade's chest, impaling the older man. However, this does nothing more than stagger Deathstroke, who, now being royally pissed off and deciding he has wasted more than enough time, closes his hand, snapping Gray Fox's neck before dropping his lifeless body to the ground. And with that, we declare Slade Wilson, Deathstroke the Terminator, the winner.
And that concludes my final Versus Series matchup with my character Gray Fox going out. Man, that was one heck of a fight, I must say. Now, in closing, I would just like to, again, I'd like to thank all of you guys that have been watching all of my matchups over the last 5 years. It has been one really crazy journey, and to think that I never would have expected I would be here in this position all of those years ago. I mean, when I think about the very first matchup I ever did, it was really just out of the idea of an experiment. I never could have thought I would end up making 50 matchups over the next 5 years and I would have as much success as I've had. Now, yeah, it's true that the final season didn't quite end up the way I wanted it to, but maybe that was a sign that it was time to move on. And heck, I have had a lot of fun just debating. It certainly helped me get in contact with a lot of you. It certainly entertained a lot of you guys, as you guys have told me in the comment section, and I'm very, very thankful that you guys have given me the opportunity to do this. And heck, if I can put as much energy and time into all of those matches that I have done and had that much success, I can only wonder what I could do given putting that same amount of energy into the next number of years in terms of new content I hope to have up for the channel that I hope you guys will be sure to stick around and enjoy. So again, I would really, really like to thank all of you guys that have watched all of these matchups, or heck, if you've missed some, be sure to go back and check them out. And I think eventually, I'll go back and really watch a lot of these matchups, just see how my development over the years have gone. So, again, for the last time, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to do this Versus series. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this journey as much as I have. And like always, I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching. You are awesome. This Versus series is made even better thanks to all of you guys' support and ideas. And like always, this is Brian, the Three Topics Gamer, signing out.